Joker, Folie, Deux is directed by Todd Phillips and stars Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. 2 years after the events of the first film, Joker is about to be put on trial, but along the way he meets a woman named Lee and he starts to form a crazy relationship with her. That's the plot synopsis of the film that we get from the trailers. What the film really is, and I'm going to be spoiler heavy here. I cannot talk about what I want to talk about with this movie without giving out spoilers. So if you want to see the film and you don't want to be spoiled, this is your warning. Leave this review. If you don't want to see the film, and I'll get into the reasons why that's probably the case, have fun with this review. This movie is half a musical, which we didn't know from the beginning off the bat. Like, that was obvious. It's also a courtroom drama that basically recaps everything from the first film, and honestly, it feels redundant because we're just getting like a flashback to what happened from before, or we're just talking about a scene from the first movie from another person's perspective, and we're just talking about what might have really happened there. And this is where we immediately get into the problems of the film. For one, this film, because it decided to focus so much on the court hearings, it should be at least interesting, and we should get at least interesting perspectives, right? Not really. We just get what actually did happen from the first movie that we saw, but we get them through like talking from other people from those films, and it becomes so tiresome and becomes a bit boring, honestly. The courtroom drama stuff just wasn't all that interesting because we already know everything that happened. We saw the first film. There are no new insights or new revelations that might change things. It's just the stuff we know being talked about, and that was honestly really boring to watch. Now, the movie could be saved by the musical segments, right? No. Even as a musical that it tries to be, I thought it was poor. I thought the movie did a really poor job at being a musical. And not to say that the songs in this movie aren't great, but they aren't anything that I'm going to be listening to over and over again. In fact, I am going to admit right now, I don't know what the songs are like anymore. And I just saw the movie last night, and this movie had really poor execution of staging these musical segments. Nothing is very imaginative. There's the idea of having like lights be like spotlights, and that was pretty cool, but that was basically it. There was no imagination to these musical pieces, and they just felt like filler. They didn't feel like they were actually progressing the story along or getting through exposition in a creative way. They just felt like they were padding out the runtime just because. It honestly felt like an afterthought, despite it being one of the first things we learned about the film. And the fact that this movie fails at being what it wants to be at the same time just made the experience really sour. Now, not to say that there isn't good things about this film. Like with the first movie, technically this is a really well made movie. The cinematography is beautiful once again. In fact, I will say because of the $200 million budget, it looks even better than the first film in some cases. The music is once again fantastic. The actual score, not the musical songs, like those are forgettable, but the actual score of the movie is still just as haunting as it was before. The performances by Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga are pretty good, though Joaquin Phoenix, in my opinion, wasn't as mesmerizing as he was in the first film. He still does a really good job here with what he is given, and what he's given is not that good, but he is acting his ass off and he is encapsulating this character very well. Lady Gaga is fine as Harley Quinn. I don't think she is anywhere near the level of Margot Robbie. This is definitely a different take, and you're going to have to go into the movie accepting that this is a completely different character. She doesn't feel like the Harley Quinn we know at all. Almost to an absurd level, honestly. Which gets us to my negatives once again. Harley Quinn feels like an afterthought here. I understand her character kind of, but she barely does much for the plot of the film and is just there to be like the love interest. This is mainly a movie that focuses on the consequences of Arthur Fleck, and they rarely focus on the characterization of Harley Quinn herself here. We just know that she is obsessed with the Joker and wants to be with him forever, but the movie doesn't do much with her character too, and I just felt like she could have been either cut out of the film and not much would change, or she would replace a lawyer character who's trying to like save Joker from getting the chair in the film, and she could be like the psychiatrist that's trying to help him, and then she would gradually fall in love with him as the court hearings will go on, and then they will start wreaking chaos together. Like, that sounds even more interesting than what this movie had. It could offer new insights and new perspectives of what people saw during that night at Murray Franklin and what other people see of the Joker. You get to see the mad love that is brewing within these two characters and how that grows to an evil level, like even go as far as like an abusive relationship like in the comics. Like, all that sounds way more interesting and it has a lot of potential to do so many things for these characters, but this movie, for what it is now, doesn't really do that. It's too busy trying to recap everything from before to an absurd level with padding out the runtime with musical segments. There's a few good scenes, especially one with a character from the previous film that I found really engaging. It's Gary, the only person who was nice to Arthur. I really like the scene where he has to stand in trial and how Joker was or used to be a positive part of his life until he did what he did. Like, that whole scene right there, I felt like was one of the best stuff in the film. And the movie doesn't really take advantage of moments like that. It was too busy just saying what has happened before and making everything feel redundant by the end too, because how the movie ends makes you feel like you wasted your time with both movies. And it almost insults you. And this is where I'm going to get into spoilers. At the end of the film, after Harley Quinn leaves Joker because he eventually comes to realize that Joker is never real and that this is not him anymore, you understand why he said that because of Gary, but still, it is not the best way to progress his character to what he's been doing from the previous film to now. It just felt like we're going backwards with Arthur Fleck, and that he is like degrading himself once again to his poor state in the first film. And then there was this bomb that explodes when he's about to be sentenced, and he tries to escape to his home, and Harley Quinn is there and they break up. Then he goes back to jail, then he gets shanked by the guy who is trying to tell him a joke, and he carves a smile on his face, and he's apparently now the real Joker, and Arthur Fleck literally dies on the spot. What kind of ending is that? We started this movie off where we and ended off where we began, and it's just, there's no actual character progression for Arthur Fleck. He ends off literally the same way as he was in the first film, and in an unfulfilling way, he gets shanked to death, and this guy is apparently the new Joker, which was poorly built up because we only get like 1 or 2 shots of him looking menacingly, and that's enough for me to get behind this. No, that is poor filmmaking. That's poor characterization. That is an awful ending. I don't know what was going on during the making of this film, it honestly felt like a group of filmmakers did not want to make this movie and only did it for the money. They're talented as all hell and they did a really good job with the filmmaking side of things, but the story and writing was just so poorly done that I couldn't get behind anything that happened with this film, and it honestly made me feel like I wasted my time with both Joker films, because we literally ended off where the story began, and not in a good way, in a very unfulfilling way, and it just made the whole experience really sour for me. That ending was what killed the movie for me. If this movie just had Harley Quinn be the lawyer character and we just focus on the romance, that would have been much better. But the movie wanted to be a musical, it wanted to do so much things, and I will say I appreciate the effort to try and do something ballsy and something that is against the norm and something that is different, and it is interesting to talk about at least. The movie is memorable in that regard. Does it make it good? No, it doesn't. It makes it even more sour because there's so much good talent being put on screen, but it's being used for a story that just feels so lackluster, and it feels like this movie actively hates its audience that really enjoyed the first movie. I don't recommend this if you love the first movie. I don't think it's even a good movie in general, as it is a poor execution of a story, and we just end off where we began in the worst possible manner. I don't know what to say anymore. I just didn't like this movie at all. This sucks, man. This sucks. I really love the first film. You can check out my review, but this movie just disappointed me to no end in a way that I didn't expect. So yeah, this is my review of Joker Folie Deux. What do you guys think of the film? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you guys next time.